So we want to start looking at entrepreneurship. Let me just confirm you can see my screen and you can hear me one more time. One more time, you can hear me and can see the screen.
I can see the screen,
Yes,
sir,
sir.
and I can hear you.
Thank you. Colleagues, the conversation of entrepreneurship is a very serious conversation that sends very strong waves and vibrations across the country, across the continent, and across the entire globe. When all of us hear the word entrepreneurship, a lot of things come out in mind. They come up in our mind. And when all these, ideas come into our mind, or all these sounds, words, imaginations are sent to our mind, this reminds us that our economic liberation as countries, as economies, as continents, or as the globe fully rely on entrepreneurship. It is purely incumbent at this juncture that we record that for all of us who have had the privilege, and now including you people, you have a privilege of going to an institution of higher learning, learning business, learning accounting, to others learning marketing. You have had a privilege of going to the business school. You cannot just walk out of the institution without learning the science of entrepreneurship. Colleagues and friends, we are going to ensure that in this course called entrepreneurship, we try to make it very practical, and I'm very glad to see that most of you are working. You are working in different institutions that are enterprising. You at least are going to easily relate with what we are talking about. Some of you own businesses, yeah? Some surprising. So the question of the day is, what is entrepreneurship? What is it that is going to be covered in this course? What is it that we are going to study? At the end of the course again, what is it that we are going to walk out with as the graduates? All right, as we conclude looking at this course, what is going to be our take-home message? All right, so this is the conversation that I want us to bear in mind. And this is the question that begs an answer in this particular conversation. So what we're going to do, colleagues, is that I will try by all the means to ensure that those questions are answered even meticulously. What is entrepreneurship? What are we going to be talking about? What will be the expected goal to be achieved at the end of the day? What are the key objectives? And all those things are being answered in today's conversation. Are we still connected? I'll keep on asking you this question because this is online education. So sometimes you don't really know whether people are following or they aren't, or maybe the line is cutting. Are we still connected?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. In entrepreneurship, I will begin by talking about an ecosystem, right? There is what we call an entrepreneurial ecosystem, and this has the following key elements. To start with, we are starting with, education and training. This is where it all starts from. Education and training. People are educated, people have been trained, people have gotten understanding, and they have obtained the skills. Then from there, we have another element, which is human capital and workforce. At this point, when people have been trained, people have been educated, then we will have they will have this assets, because human beings will become assets for pushing this particular agenda. Very important. And of course, I'm not calling the assets as you address them in accounting. Not really. Yeah. Once we have that, then we have local and the global markets, very important in this conversation. The government policies are important and they will need to be discussed because they do influence the functioning of the entrepreneurial environment. And then we'll look at the regulatory frameworks and infrastructure, the legal framework. And when we look at those regulatory frameworks, then we will understand what laws, what rules guide and how those rules and laws affect the functioning of an entrepreneurship or an entrepreneurial environment. We will have a conversation on funding and financing of these very innovations or these ideas that you are coming up with, right? How do you fund them? How do you finance them? How do you write a business proposal? And how do you source finance, in short? That's what you're going to be doing. And also we'll talk about culture. We'll also talk about the issue of having mentors, advisors, and the support system in entrepreneurship, how important it is, and what, what the use or the role of we'll discuss the role of the mentors, the role of the advisors, and the other supporting individuals to entrepreneurship. Are those really important? And we'll look at the universities as a catalyst as well. Are the universities important in pushing the agenda of entrepreneurship? So that's very important. That's where we're going to start with. That's where we're going to start from. It is always a very good gesture that you, every time you join class, please you mute your mic and unless you have something to say. To start with, number one, we're going to look at the nature of entrepreneurship. At this point, this is in the first chapter. We will look at the history of entrepreneurship. Where did it start from? How did it start? What is entrepreneurship? What are the types of entrepreneurs? What is the role of entrepreneurs in economic development? The question is, what do the entrepreneurs do? Are they really important? Okay, do we need them when it comes to, to the functioning of our economy? Then from there, we'll look at the competency that people need for them to survive in this environment. And we'll look at the concept of creativity, innovation, and general entrepreneurship at large. So that is what is going to be captured in the first chapter. Just talking about what entrepreneurship is, looking at the types and all that. So the nature of entrepreneurship, that's what you're going to discuss in the first chapter. Okay? Are we still good? Are we still connected? Now that you have understood the nature of entrepreneurship, we're going to look at business planning. Remember, you can't enterprise without planning. As you might have heard, that by failing to plan, to prepare, usually you are preparing to fail. This was already said by Benjamin Franklin many years ago. Okay, so we need to prepare. If you don't prepare, then you're preparing to fail. So for that reason, it is very important when we are teaching this particular course of entrepreneurship. It's important for us to help you learn the science of planning. How do you plan, really? What's the process, okay? How do you identify, opportunities? How do you evaluate those opportunities? What's the process of business idea development? How do you develop the ideas of businesses? And also, how do you identify these ideas, right? Or that, how do we look at those businesses that answer the needs of the people, the needs of customers? In other words, how do we come up with the businesses that are relevant to the environment where we are found in? What are some of the methods of generating those ideas? Okay. We will also look at the concept of business planning and actually how to develop a business plan. And I can even give you a leakage at this point. Please, you may have a question in an exam or maybe in a test or in one of the assignments. You may, mark the word may, have a test. I may examine you on developing a business plan, or I can assess you giving an assignment or something. This is very important. You might have heard many people talk about business planning, yeah? They have talked about business proposals, business plans, whatever, and all those things. Actually, recently, the New Dawn government, where you live in, that is the New Dawn government. From the time it ascended to the throne, there has been a huge and a very serious campaign for entrepreneurship. I think you have seen that the waves and the sounds have been sent across, the nation, that people need to enterprise, and plus many other, people have stood and they have campaigned for entrepreneurship. Now, with the point we are driving at is that when the government came up with all that and is campaigning for that, they have put in mechanisms in place to help you people maybe source finance. For example, there is the CEC. You know CEC, right? CEC, the Citizens Economic Empowerment, the Citizens Economic empowerment, where you go, you borrow, you get money from there. And there are also things that you might have heard of, CDF, right? CDF, Constitution Development Funds, among others. Those mechanisms have been set to help you people find finance, okay? But the message we are sending is that when you go there, they will ask you to present your business plans, really your proposals, what do you really have? What are you planning to give, So we want to teach you how to develop, the bankable business plans or the business proposal, business ideas. So basically, that's what we're going to be talking about in this course, in the second unit. Okay. Confirm at this point we are still connected. Anyone who says we are still connected, can you just give us a shout? We are still connected. Okay, thank you. And then from there, you have come up with this idea, you have planned, but how do you form the business? That's chapter 3. Business formation, right? At this point, we'll discuss how to form the business. And since many of you actually have businesses, so you're going to be telling us and sharing your experiences, what it means to form the business, what you actually need to look at. And those are some of the things that we are going to discuss in the 3rd chapter. So look at the different forms of the businesses. How do you register the businesses? How do you scale up the business? Of course, you start from a small business, you go to a medium one. How do you scale up into a large, company? How do you become a public limited company? And those conversations shall be held in this unit. Then from there, you have formed the business, but you don't yet have a product, yeah? Is it possible? We'll look at in the 4th chapter, product and service development now. How do you develop the concept? All right? How do you develop this concept? So I got the concept of product and service technology that will be discussed. The product and service development process. How do you develop the products? How do you develop the service that you're going to give to the people? How do you go ahead and also bring in the idea of intellectual property, and how do you go about having patents, the trademarks, copyrights, and all those things are captured in this 4th chapter, basically. You might have heard people, so many people, I'll give you an example, yeah? Many people have gone to the universities, others have received the highest education of learning, a prestigious education. Or you can easily measure that whether it's prestigious or not. The informal education and the non-formal education, those we can't really say they are prestigious or not prestigious because it's difficult to measure. Yeah. So I'm talking about the former one. People have gone to schools, they have learned these things, they have all these skills, but where is the problem? Why aren't they, using their skills? Why are they not developing products? Eh? Some of you are studying maybe business administration as I speak to you, but you find that you don't even have, you can't even sell even any simplest thing, right? You literally have nothing to sell. You're not selling any product, a good, you're not selling any service, you are not selling anything. And even selling your own services, like your own labor, it is even becoming a bit difficult. Where is the problem? So when you get to this fourth chapter, we're going to talk about the concept of commercialization. How do you monetize your skills? How do you monetize your knowledge? How do you monetize your service? How do you develop these things? And how do you protect these, products and services that you actually formulate? Okay. You have formed the product, yeah? But you know what? When you form that product, that good or the service, it can just reach, it cannot just reach the people without you doing some homework. And that is called packaging, branding, and the building awareness. That is what we are going to do in marketing. So we're going to look at marketing of these same products that we have developed. That is in the fifth chapter. Yeah? So look at marketing basically. You have come up with this product. What do you do then? Right? So you learn what marketing is. That's how do you build brand awareness? How do you protect the brands? You look at the different philosophies that guide marketing. Those are marketing philosophies. We look at marketing systems. How do you do a market research? We look at market intelligence, competitive analysis, and all that. So once we look at all those things, you would have known how to work with this. How do you sell? Then we'll also add digital marketing at this point, because we live in a digital world. So we'll add a part on digital marketing, and I can promise you, I may examine you or assess you. I may give you an assignment, or I may give you somewhere, a question just to test your level of understanding of digital marketing. Very important. Okay. I'm also telling you the things that I want you to pay attention to, right? So some students that care, they're able even to write down as the lecturer is speaking what is important, the areas that the lecturer is interested in asking them, and that's what they are doing. Others don't care. They are not even writing anything, but they are not even willing to pay attention, but that's still fine. That's still fine. Okay. When we are done with marketing, we'll get to chapter 6, where we're looking at business financing. Now, how do you finance, you're marketing this product, how do you finance these products that you're going to develop and these services? You'll learn the different sources of finance, both the internal ones and the external ones. You will learn those financing part of the business, really, and how you manage the finances of the business. Okay. And finally, when you have learned all that, what do you think has missed? What do you think is missing in this conversation? For you to be complete, you need ability to manage growth and transitioning of the business. So that is what we'll look at in the 7th chapter. That is managing the growth and transitioning of the business. So how do you manage the growth? And we'll bring in a little bit of strategic management here and some of the concepts taught there, and then you should be fine after looking at all this. Okay.